Last week, we talked about how there is no situation that creates your feelings, right? Many people mistakenly believe that their situation creates their feelings. But in fact, what we learned is that it's your thought about the situation that creates your feelings. So today, we're going to take it a step further and talk about how that can influence your loved one's behavior. Let's take an example straight out of the Careblazers Survival Guide. If you haven't yet downloaded your own copy of the Careblazers Survival Guide, go ahead and do it. The link's below this video. But let's take the example straight out of there. All right, so we have the situation. Your mom lost her purse again and is yelling that you stole her purse. The thought is, she is such a liar. I can't believe she has the nerve to accuse me of stealing her purse after everything I do for her. The feeling is anger. Now, to make sure we understand that the situation didn't cause anger, I'm going to use the same example again, but I'm going to change the thought and see what it does, okay? So the situation is still the same. Your mom is blaming you and accusing you of stealing her purse. This time you have the thought, her mind is trying to understand how her purse is missing again. What an awful disease. The feeling you have is compassion and understanding. Now, what does any of this have to do with impacting your loved one's behavior? So in the first example, if you're feeling angry, what is that likely going to lead to? It's going to change your behavior. So if you're feeling angry that your mom is purposefully accusing you of stealing her purse after everything you do for her, you're likely going to be more short-tempered with your mom. You might snap back at her. The whole day might feel a little bit tense. There's less communication with your mom. And then all of a sudden dinner time rolls around and your mom refuses to eat dinner that night. Right? That's just an example of how your feelings lead to your actions, and your loved one feeds off of your feelings and actions, right? They pick up on that. In the second example, the person who has the thought that this is just an awful disease, the mind is playing tricks on her, and that person who feels more compassion and concern, that person's behavior is likely going to be different. This person might tell her mother that she loves her, that she's going to help her mom find the purse, and that the two of them then engage in a pleasant activity together, right? So instead of being short-tempered and a little bit tense throughout the rest of the day, that person comforts her mom, tells her it's going to be okay, says we'll find that purse, and then whenever the opportunity arises, distracts her mom to engage in a pleasant activity. Do you see how the situation was exactly the same in both scenarios? But the thinking around the situation had a whole domino effect. It has a ripple effect in terms of your behavior that you're going to use towards your loved one, right? We all know, I'm sure you've experienced yourself, that when you are tense and upset and frustrated and hurried, that rubs off on your loved one, right? It could seem like the days where you are most stressed and tense, those seem to be the days where your loved one's doing the worst, right? It's because they're feeding off of your energy. They're taking cues from your nonverbals. When the brain is no longer able to fill in all the details and completely understand all of the different things that's happening, the brain tries to fill in the gaps the best way that it can. And many times the way that somebody with dementia tries to fill in the gaps is they look for cues. They might not understand everything that's going on, and they might not understand everything that's coming out of your mouth, but they're going to pick up that your face looks frustrated or angry. They're going to pick up that you seem to be rushing and not happy, and then they're going to feed off that, and their behaviors are going to reflect that, right? They're looking at you and they see signs that something's not right, and so they're thinking something must not be right, even though they don't understand the full picture. I think that this is great news, because what this does is this shows that you do have some control over how to improve the situation. But now that you understand how your own thoughts impact your emotion, I do want to make sure I'm clear that having negative emotion, feeling angry from time to time, being upset, being sad, those are all normal human emotions. And as a Careblazer, you are going to experience those emotions. This is not intended for you to beat yourself up for feeling a certain way. Okay, if you haven't watched my video on difficult caregiver emotions, I'll make sure I link to that below this video so that you can watch it. But this is not something that you take to just beat yourself up even further that you're having these emotions. It's just something to be aware of. You are still going to have negative emotions. By knowing about this model, you are still going to have negative emotions, but the point is you get to decide, do I want to keep having this emotion? Do I want to try to change this? Do I want to try to improve this? If the answer is yes, then you can try replacing your thought with something more helpful. This is a simple idea, but it actually takes practice, and it's not that simple to initially put into your life. It might feel a little bit odd or unnatural or forced in the beginning when you try to understand this way of thinking and you try to replace your thoughts, but I promise it becomes more second nature. And as hard as it is in the beginning to try to notice when you're hanging out in a space of negativity that's not helping you and you're trying to replace it, it's a little difficult in the beginning, but it's much easier. Careblazers tell me their life is much easier in the long run now that they know that how much they can control and impact their emotion just by changing their thoughts. And they practice this and they put it to use and they notice the benefits that come from it. The short-term approach is doing exactly what you're doing. Continue doing exactly what you're doing. It's easy in the short run. The long-term approach is to understand this way of thinking, understand that you can change your thoughts, try that approach in your life, work on this. It's definitely a little bit more difficult up front as you're learning a new skill, but it makes the payoff much, much better in the long run. Careblazer, you know hard moments are coming. There have been hard moments in the past in this caregiving situation, and there are going to be hard moments in the future. But it is up to you to decide how you want to get through those hard moments. Do you want to just sit there and let those negative emotions take over your whole life, or do you want to try to get control over what you can control? Now, one of the things that gets a lot of Careblazers really worked up and angry is that they think, well, what if my loved one knows exactly what they're doing? What if my loved one purposefully knows that they're pushing my buttons? What am I supposed to do now? Well, stay tuned because next week we're going to do the third video in this series, and it's going to be what to do if your loved one is purposefully trying to drive you crazy. It's going to answer the question, is my loved one doing this on purpose? A question I get very frequently. In the meantime, let me know what you think about this approach. Can you see the connection between your thoughts and your mood? Is it making sense to you that it's not the situation that's creating the mood, even though that's kind of how most people think of it? I'm really curious to know your thoughts. Next week, be right back here on Sunday. We're going to answer this question, is your loved one doing this on purpose? Using this approach that we've just discussed. I'll be back next week, Careblazer. Bye. Situations, understand this